I have a little bit of a different setup today. I have been doing quite a bit of work at my standing desk, and I'm finding that I can't get close enough to my work. So when I'm sitting at this desk, I have a really good view of what I'm doing and I have all this space to work with. So let's see how it goes. But today I'm going to talk to you about my secret weapon, which is these little guys here. So I have some strips of paper that I cut from a very inexpensive dollar shop find. I'll just put it sideways so you can see it in the shot. This is an A3 pad. Now, it's full of cellulose. It's not something I would use to paint on, even for cards. I just don't find that it works for me. However, rather than waste it, I have cut the pages down into these strips, and I use them when I am looking for color combinations. So today I'm going to be going through my Daniel Smith 24 half pans and working out some color combinations that I really like. Now, these are the strips that I used for a project that I just did recently, which is, there's a tutorial for this on my channel. I made some loose floral cards using Zig, Real Color, clean brush markers, or is that Zig clean real brush markers? Yeah, that's it, from Kuretake. Now, this was created using just a couple of Zig markers and a water brush, and you can see it was one of my favorites. This has had a lot of interest on my social media. So the color scheme is this one here. So this is one of the strips I put together before I made the cards. I decided what colors I thought would look good together. So the Zig colors in this are deep vermilion, shadow pink, smoky yellow, and moss green. I've got the numbers there, so if I want to use this color scheme again, and this is definitely a favorite, I really like the way these colors play together. And I think this is one of the most useful tips that I've picked up this year, is to make strips. And it's really a good way to look at what you have in a whole new light. You can look at things and think, oh gee, you know, this was another color combination I really like. Smoky teal, aquamarine blue, smoky yellow, and moss green. That one was a really beautiful card as well. So these are very handy to have for a couple of reasons. So you can not just use them as color strips, color schemes. Yeah, there you go, color schemes. You can turn them over on the back, and say, for instance, I was working away on something and I didn't quite know how much paint I had on my brush, whether I had too much water, whether I had too much pigment or not enough, and I can use it as a test on the back. So rather than put my brush to the page with something that might be not light enough or too dark or would have too much water on it, I can just practice on the back of a strip before I commit. And that is another useful way to use up this paper. Okay, so I cut my strips down, and today I'm going to be exploring my Daniel Smith 24 half pans and seeing what color combinations I like together. You can see I've already swatched this out, and I did want to talk to you about how I do my swatches. This is my final swatch after I've gotten to know my paints. I've opened them up, I've played with them. These paints do come with a swatch in the lid, and it's made of plastic, which is fabulous because you can get it as painted on as you like, and that just wipes off. So that's something that I really like, and I keep it in there so I'm digging into the right colors in the right pans. This really helps me get to know my materials. So I'm going to start by waking up my palette with a spritz, waking up all those lovely luscious colors, and I'm going to let that sit while I show you my play swatch book. Now, this is a book by Ranger, and it's a mixed media book, and it has all the materials that I own in here. This was a really good discipline to have if you buy a lot of art supplies and you forget that you own them. Even my journals, I've cut off the pages around the journals. This is the journal that I'm using here. This is a field watercolor journal by Handbook. It has beautiful fluid watercolor paper. and I love using it. It's a lovely rough texture. I have all the other things that I've been using. Gelatos, I've swatched them with and without gesso. This was my Winsor & Newton set. How messy is this, guys? Don't you just love it? It is so messy. Now I have another swatch that I've made of my Winsor & Newton professional paints, which looks similar to this one, but this was my first play session. And I've done things like kept the colour schemes, the colour swatches, the paints that are available in here. Marked off the ones I have. Look at what I might want. There's my Ganzo Tambi colours. This is my Stampin' Up materials. I have a lot of Stampin' Up product because I was a demonstrator for 7 years, so I still have a lot of that with me. Then I have these beautiful Winsor & Newton Pro Marker watercolour markers. Oh gosh, let me tell you this, look at the colours, aren't they beautiful? And this is all about those colours in the box they came in. Then I have my watercolour terms, so that if I'm learning a new term in watercolour, I know I can use that term and I understand it. Brusho powders. Things like my Tombow Jewel Tip marker. These are my Zig Clean Colour Real Brush markers. And these are my Distress Ink and Distress Oxide inks. Aren't they pretty? They look so pretty in here. They look so much prettier in here than they do in the actual containers that they come in. And I will be doing some actual painting with these, using these as watercolour paints and showing you some things to do with that, because I just love these colours. They're so pretty. But that's my playbook. And then when I really get to know my colours a little bit better, then I make my professional swatches. And now the next point that I want to bring up is that if you don't have a certain colour, you can figure out how to mix it and keep notes on how you made it. Now, just looking at my Daniel Smith colours, I can see there is not one single purple. And I can mix purple, red and blue make purple. I have 3 reds and I have 3 blues. So I thought, just for fun, we'll start off mixing some purples and see how many combos we can get out of 3 reds and 3 blues. It's more than you think, guys. It's a lot. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start swatching some Pyrrole Scarlet and Cerulean Blue Chromium together, which is these 2 here. So I'm going to start with red first. Pyrrole Scarlet, not too much water. And Cerulean Blue, or Cerulean Blue. Cerulean stands to me like Sara Lee. I call it Cerulean Blue, but anyway, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to pronounce it. It's just a nice blue. Mix that up. Now, it's not really making a purple. What it's doing is it's knocking back both colours. So yes, it's purpley, but it's not a great colour. I think I'm going to have to get a dioxazine purple or something and put into my other palette. This set of Daniel Smith watercolours comes with a bonus empty metal pan with the same size half pans in it. So you can squeeze your tube paints into that as you add more colours in, or you could buy another half pan, depending on what you want. Now, that colour to me, it's just knocked back the red and it's knocked back the French ultramarine. It's not creating a purple that I would use, to be honest. It's sort of a soft mauve at the edge here. Not a great colour. So, okay, well, that's not so great, but I want to write it down anyway so I don't try using that to get an effect that doesn't work for me. Pyrrole Scarlet and Cerulean Blue. Okay, let's start with Pyrrole Scarlet again and try a different blue. So we're going to go with, in fact, I might just lay down while I've got this on my brush, I don't want to waste it, so I'm going to move it down here. We said we're going to do 1, 2, 3 different blues. Okay, 1, 2, move it right down here. Getting to know your paints and getting to know what colours you like, what combinations go well together, what colours to avoid if they start to not be too happy to play together. You know, that it's important that you spend a bit of time on this. So we're going to go with phthalo blue green shade, which is this guy here. Yep. We're going to mix this in and see what we get here. And I'm trying for a fairly thick consistency here because I do want a vibrant colour, and that's just completely gone blue. I need some more red. It's too cool, so I need to add more warmth to that to get a purple. So I'll come back into the Pyrrole Scarlet, add some more, see what we get. I'm not really liking it. It's not very nice at all. It's like a, I don't know, it's kind of a muddy purple. Yeah, I think not something I would use, but that's okay. PHTH. I really had to figure out how to spell this. It's a tricky one. PHTHALO. Phthalo blue green shade. Okay, so far no purples that are giving me any joy. So let's try Pyrrole Scarlet with ultramarine blue and see what happens here. I tend to think this is going to be knocked back as well. It's not going to be a really clear color. We'll see. I could be wrong. I'm really looking for purple here. I'm seeing a little bit more purple in this. It's more leaning to pink at the moment, so we need to cool that down with a little bit more blue. It's a pinky shade. Just not feeling it, guys. I think I need to buy a dioxazine purple. I just don't think I can mix these at all. But hang on, we've still got 2 more reds. Well, this is technically a pink, but 2 more reds and 3 more color combos with those. So this is with ultramarine blue. Okay, I'll set them aside to dry. I wouldn't call any of those purple. I think they're kind of muddy. So let's go on with another strip, and we're going to move to permanent alizarin crimson or alizarin crimson. So many different ways to pronounce these, depending on where you're from. Okay, so we'll move on to permanent alizarin crimson in our quest for a purple. So clean brush-ish, want some clean water there, dap it off, and permanent alizarin crimson. And it's called permanent because alizarin crimson used to fade. It doesn't anymore. It's now permanent, so they want you to know that this does not fade. There are no fugitive colours in any of these 24 half pans, which is good to know. So alizarin crimson is a pinker shade. It's not a clear red. So we're going to try the same things again. We're going to start with cerulean blue down here, which is this guy here. This is really poor paper. It's just horrible. It's horrible paper. It is horrible to work on. I can feel that the pigment's just sitting on the top, even though these are beautifully pigmented paints. It's really not doing them justice. So we've kind of got a pale mauve happening here. Let's just dab a bit more of that blue in. Oops. Okay. That's looking kind of nice. I kind of like that. That's the first one I've really liked. So this is permanent alizarin crimson or alizarin crimson and cerulean blue or cerulean blue. That is a contender for a purple. It's not muddy, it's kind of almost a pastel. It's really nice. You compare that to these colors, which are very muddy. This is kind of clear. I like it. I like it. So there's a nice mauve. I'm liking that. And if we used full mass stone of those colors, we'd get a much deeper shade. Full mass stone means straight out of the tube or the pan without too much dilution with water. So now we're going to go for more crimson. And this time I'm going to try phthalo blue green shade. Here we come. Way too much blue, so we'll get some of that off. I'm getting more of a blue. We need some more crimson in there. Still a bit blue. You can see the cellulose is pushing against the pigment in this paper. It does not want to mix, but we'll get there. I am determined to make this work on these strips because I want to use them up. Now this is not a bad shade either, certainly not muddy. The reason that these shades are muddy is that we started off with an orangey red. So this has red, yellow, and when you add blue to red and yellow, you get brown. So this is why the muddy shades with Pyrrole Scarlet are showing up. Now these might be useful for something that you want to create. However, I look at this and think these are much cleaner and clearer. This is with phthalo blue. So now we'll try alizarin crimson with, we're getting there, we're getting some really interesting things happening today. This is cool. Okay, getting our red, picking up our crimson and laying that down with ultramarine blue. Not bad. Not bad. Not minding that one at all. So that's with ultramarine blue. Okay, so there's those three colours. Now let's try for our quinacridone rose with our three blues. Let's see how we go. See what we get. So Quin Rose sits here on the palette. It's a pretty colour. Look at that. It's similar to Opera Pink in that it is a lovely, vivid, bright pink. However, Opera Rose is almost a neon colour. But if you don't have Opera Rose, and I do have my Opera Rose in here that I can show you. You can see it's very similar. This is Winsor & Newton Professional Opera Rose. Very, very close. And this one is light fast. So that can be an important thing when you are wanting to make something to sell. You don't want the colours to fade on the wall of somebody's apartment under the glass of your beautiful painting. So believe me, it does happen, guys. I had a painting that I framed and hung in my house away from sunlight, under glass, under a mat, so the glass wasn't touching it. And it, in a matter of 4 years, almost all of the colour leached out, and that was using student quality materials. So that's why it's so important. If you can afford to start off with a really good quality red, yellow and blue, then that's a great way to start. So if you could only afford 3 tubes of Daniel Smith watercolour paint, I would go with a red, yellow and blue and mix as many colours as you could from that. Believe me, it took me a long time to move into Daniel Smith. I was so used to using student grade materials, and then when I shifted, the difference in my work just went through the roof. So I knew I was working with good materials, and it makes all the difference. So we've got Quin Rose, which I think I've been talking so much, I probably need a bit more of that because I think it's started to dry out a bit. All right, there we go. Now we're going to try with our 3 blues. We're going to come in with cerulean blue, which is, yeah, see what happens. Oh, this is lovely. This is vibrant, like the pink. A little bit more blue. That's a nice clear colour. That is a lovely purple. There we go. Finally, we have a nice purple that is soft and pretty. Okay, that's a winner. Look, guys, look, look, look. As opposed to the muddy colours we got with the Pyrrole Scarlet. Look how clear that is. Gorgeous. Okay, so we have Quin Rose with cerulean blue. Okay, let's go ahead with some more Quin Rose. And move on to phthalo blue green shade. My water is getting very dirty here. I'm going to change it in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner. Look at that. Quin Rose is the colour to mix with your blues to make lovely purples. So that is an important learning exercise for me with my particular colours that I have here. Okay. And one more colour. So we're going to have mixed 9 purples out of these colours. So we're going to start with Quin Rose and Ultramarine Blue this time. That's quite pinky. I'll just give it a little bit more blue. A bit more purpley depth. Very nice. Still a bit more pink. Get some blue in there. So there's my purples. Loving it. You can see our clear winner is Quinacridone Rose mixed with any of the blues makes a beautiful clear purple colour. This is a little on the pink side. I could add a little bit more blue to each of those and make it slightly more bluey purple. Gorgeous colors. I'm thrilled to know that I now have some really pretty purples that I can work with from my 24 half pan. I know that anything I make with Pyrrole Scarlet, because it is an orangey red, is going to veer towards a brownie color. I'm not saying these are bad colors. They're quite nice in themselves. They're colors I would most probably use for something. And so I'm going to keep this as well, because this is another color that we don't have. 3 more colors that we don't have in the set. And then this is more what I would call smoky purple, I guess. It is permanent. Alizarin Crimson is still a reddy color. Where are we here? Here we are. It's very close to quinacridone rose. So this one is not as muddy, but it's definitely not as clear as the quinacridone rose. So there's some colors. Now I'm going to clean my water brushes. I'm going to clean my water brushes and get some clean water. And then I'm going to come back and talk to you about making some color combos out of the Daniel Smith colors and seeing what we like and what I can use in some really nice loose florals to do a painting for you. So one of the colors I am going to use with my color combos is probably, I think, I like this purple, ultramarine blue and quinacridone rose mixed together. So that'll be a mixture that I make. I love that. That's really vivid and pretty. And the other colors that I think would look nice with this, and this is where the strips come in handy. You can move them around and have a look and see what goes well. I do like this with Handsy Yellow Light. I think that works really nicely, those two together. And so that could be the middle of my flower. It's Handsy Yellow Light. Or it does look nice with quinacridone gold. That is actually nice because we're working with a quinacridone rose and gold together and purple. There's a winner right there. There's a great color combo. And you know, for the leaves, well, for the floral leaves, I'll probably come into someone like Pearline Green. I think it might be a darker color. But there's our winner. We're going to use quinacridone gold, quinacridone rose, which is in this anyway, and the purple that I've made using ultramarine blue. So let's make that color scheme now. So we're going to start with quinacridone gold. That is a beautiful color. And if you just use a watered down version, you can see the difference if you use a lot of water. So that's Quin Gold. Next is Quin Rose. And next is Quin Rose with ultramarine blue to get our lovely purple shade. And I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking. This is ultramarine blue. but I do like to use a limited color palette when I'm painting. I think it makes for a more harmonious painting. I can actually use ultramarine blue and quin gold to create a nice green. Now I know this will work, so we're going to do that now. So we'll go back to our quin gold, which is one of the colors we've used up here. Bring it in a bit lighter, a bit darker rather. And bring in my French ultramarine and make a nice green for the leaves. And I have just created a winning color palette for some florals. Whoops, there we go. So we have our flower shape and our shadows. We have our flower center and we have our stems. And these are colors that I have mixed. If I wanted to add a fifth color, I would add the ultramarine because we already have it in this mixture. But I think 4 colors is enough for this palette. We'll see. Maybe as the painting progresses, I will add some pure ultramarine in there. We'll see what happens. Okay, on with the painting. So now, having worked on this cellulose paper, I'm going to give myself a treat and work with some Arches or Arche aquarelle watercolor. This is 300 GSM or 140 pound, and this is cold pressed paper, and it is fabulous. Now, it is so thick to work with that it has minimal buckling unless you use scads of water. I'm still going to tape it to a board because I want to have a nice edge around it. Now this I purchased from the dollar store. It's QZ tape and it is fabulous. It was just, I think, $2.50. I bought about 6 rolls of this because it is really good. And if you can find inexpensive tape, then that's going to cut down on the cost of materials and lets you afford the really nice paper to work with. So I'm going to tape this to a board. And this is just the back of a watercolor pad. And I'm going to use this to tape down my paper. So I have some maple, golden maple, let me see. Can you see that? That's golden maple sable watercolor brushes. I have a set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. I'm going to work with a size 10 because I want this to be really loose. If you were really brave, you could work with a 12. I mean, maybe that's what I need to be working with anyway. I don't know. I'm going to leave it to one side. I'm going to leave it out. I might bring it in. So that will mean that my work is nice and loose and free. I have my color scheme sorted. So I'm going to mix those up into one of my little flower wells. So I have a flower palette. I'm going to clean that out now. It's pretty simple. All you do is use a wet tissue, wipe it out. So I can have quite a few variances of these colors already mixed, so I'm not constantly dabbing back into my half bands. Wet my brush so it can come to a nice point. Reshape it. It's been sitting in the box. I want to reshape it. Okay, so I've got my 10 and my 12 there. I have my color here near my water, so I'm not reaching across my page to use my colors. So I'm going to mix these up now. Now, sable hair brushes do hold a wonderful amount of water. They tend not to spring back to as sharp a tip as some of the synthetics do, but you can reshape it if you need a nice fine tip. I just tend to give it a little shape like that. I have both natural hair and synthetic brushes. I like them both for different reasons. Excuse me. Right, ultramarine blue. We're going to mix up our purple now. Yummy. Look at that. Wow. And I can test this for what it's going to look like. It's a very olive colour. It's probably got a little bit too much yellow in it still, so I'm bringing in more blue. Now I've got a nice deeper green, I should say. I think you can still do with a little bit more blue. Let's add a bit more in. Ah, there we go. So we've got 4 colours sitting there. We've got Quin Rose, Quin Gold. We've got a green made from ultramarine blue and Quin Gold. And we've got a purple made from ultramarine blue and Quin Rose. Now I do want to bring in some ultramarine. Just have it sitting on my palette in case I need to mix some more of anything. It's just going to sit there. I don't know that I'm going to bring this in, but it's there if I need it to mix up some more purple or more green. Probably not going to use it. So I want to wake up my paper, so I'm going to start by putting some drops of water across there, just splashes. My idea is that I'm going to do florals with the blooms at the top and the stems at the bottom. Pretty simple. And I might actually, a bit more. There we go. And now I'm going to add some splashes of colour in there. I'm going to bring in some of my pink. More towards the top because these are going to be my blooms. And some purples. Oh, lovely. And some greens down the bottom because this will be where my leaves are, my stems. And last but not least, some quinacridone gold in there as well. Okay, I feel as though I'm good to go. And I'm going to start just very loosely drawing in some shapes with some clean water. And starting off like this really helps you keep your work loose. And using a big brush helps too. You can't get lost in the fine details if you're using a really large brush and quite a lot of water to start. You see my greens coming in here, and I work fast. I want to work fast to get this painting started. And I'm going to spray a little bit of water on with my, I use one of these distress sprayers. They give a lovely fine mist. If you pull the trigger slowly, you'll get drops, but a fine mist if you push the trigger fairly quickly. Now the paper's starting to wake up. The paints have woken up because I activated them with my sprayer. And this is going to start giving me a bit of a background so that I don't end up with just flowers against white. In fact, I'm going to add a bit more yellow in. I'm really liking that Quin Gold in the background there. I'm going to add a bit more of that up the top. Nice. A little bit more at the bottom too. And I really want to get some more greens in here in the bottom, just in the bottom section. Because this will be my stems, and in the center will be the stems as well. That's looking great. All right, just getting rid of any hard lines to start with. Smoothing out the edges. And working fast, really fast. So this is so fast, guys. And I'm leaving some spots in there, undiluted. And there's our background. Okay, now that's the hard part done. Just getting that background in, knowing where you're going, that's really the tricky part of all this. I like these stripes that are happening here with some pink. And I'm going to practice a couple of flower shapes. So for that, I'm going to use just cheap old paper. Okay, and I'm going to practice my bloom shapes and see what I can come up with. So obviously my blooms are going to be pink with some purple in. And I just want to make sure I've got the right amount of color and pigment. There's a simple flower, guys. I like the 3-petal variety. I think if you get 5, it probably gets a bit bigger. A bit too big. Let's try a purple one. And we'll have one coming this way. You can go either way. I actually like the effect of this rough edge. It's kind of cool. For a different shape, you can see you can kind of drag that out and get some really cool spiky colors, spiky petals. Not colors, petals. Okay, I like that. I like that dragging out with the spiky ones, and I like this 3-petaled. It's almost like a tulip. I'm liking that, and I want to keep it. You can see that's going to have hard edges there, so I'll make sure they don't happen. Pull them out. And there's little softer colors down here. Yeah. I would like that bit to be a bit more rounded. There we go. It's a bit too pointy in the middle. So it's better to sort this out when you're starting than go into your painting and not quite know what you're doing. So I think these flower shapes are where I'm at. And I think I really want some more of that purple in here. So I think maybe the purple are going to be sort of like a lavender type of flower. I like that. Purple and lavender sort of, well, you can read it as lavender because that's kind of what it is. See how loose I'm being, guys. This is just really simple, and that's what I want. I want this lovely effect of the paint flowing. Okay, and the other colors we're going to have our greens down the bottom, so we're going to have some leaves. See how pointy I can get this with a very large brush. It's really fun. I like it. I like it a lot. Or we can come down towards, lift. We don't have enough water on there, but this is, remember, this is the cellulose paper. Once I move to the arches, this will be a dream. So I kind of like the idea of these broadleaf stems. The stems themselves, guys, this is showing you what you can do with a really thick brush. That stem is probably a little bit thick for me. Okay, we'll come up to about here. We're going to really light touch on the stems. Maybe have some stems going this way. So I'm thinking through the painting on my cheap paper. While this is drying, we've got our background. It's drying beautifully, so it's nice and dry to start. And I'm thinking, you know, we can bleed some colors into here. Remember, cheap cellulose paper, it's going to look much nicer on the finished piece. But this is giving me an idea of what I can do with this big thick brush. Drag these into here. I do like this. I think with my flower up here, I want to bring in 2 colors. So we'll probably, you know, bring another color in here just to move that around. Maybe some stripy bits in the center, so we can get some color going there. Not really, no. I think this is kind of, this, as you can see. Let me show you the texture on this paper. It's like little crisscrosses. It's crazy. Guys, it's one you really want to steer away from using for your finished pieces. It's great for playing around with. It's great for swatching things out, but yeah, we don't want that pattern in our painting. So I've got some shapes here. I really like this shape, and then just letting something bleed out in the center. This is sort of open. These are closed. I think they're a little bit chubby, so I think I'd like to make these a little bit more elegant, more close to the shape of a tulip. I don't know. They're a bit spiky, but we'll see what happens. We'll see how we go. So we're just going to do some colors that really work together, and we know the colors work. I'm just wondering what the blue looks like with this. So let's put some blue in. No, I'm not going to use that. It really fights against the purple. So I might use this to tone down some of the colors that I have, but I'm not going to use ultramarine blue on its own. That doesn't work. All right, let's see what we can do with some real serious paper, guys. And they're going to be much looser than that. They're going to be really kind of blobs, which I like. Get some more pigment in, testing my swatches out over here. Oh, that's nice. Very nice, liking that. All right, so let's get going. This is pretty much dry. It's damp. It's damp, guys. It's cold to the touch, so it's damp, which is perfect. I don't want it to be completely dry. I want it to be damp. So let's go. I'm a bit nervous about the stems, so I'm going to get them in first. So, do some test strokes. Now, if you want fine point, you're going to hold your brush close at the end of the ferrule, just near where brush tips are. So for fine tips, let's see how fine we can get this. Oh, I've run out of green too. I need to mix some more up. Now we've got ultramarine there. I can drag that across. Aha, there we go. A little bit more blue. Still not quite dark enough. I've got a really bluey version over here, which is kind of nice. I can bring that in too. Okay, good. So on my crappy paper, bring your fingers right down to the end, hold it there, and you can get a nice fine line just by barely kissing the paper. So they're going to be my stems. So I'm going to grab those and put some stems in just to get me started. I want some direction in here. That wasn't what I was planning, guys. I was thinking I had a little bit more water on my brush than that. You can see it's streaky and it's thick. So let's go back the other way. I'm actually going to pull it down towards me. Get more water on the brush. More water, more water. Oh, I can do a nice fine one. I'm going to stand up. And I want the stems a bit thicker at the bottom, simply because that's how they grow. That one I quite like that. That's kind of delicate. I'm going to put another delicate one in if I can. Nice. Okay, I like that. I like that. Okay. I'm going to drop some leaves in while we've got the green on the brush. And, you know, there's different ways you can do leaves. I kind of like the long leaf like that. I think that's really elegant. You lay it down on the side of the brush and then you flick up the top. I really like those leaves and they're very easy to create. So you're going to lay your brush down and then flick up. See how easy that is? Lay it down, flick up. So I'm kind of laying my brush, can you see that? About that. These are really nice, and they're going to work with my tulipy type blooms up here. They're going to work really well with those. And another one in the middle. It's gone a little bit scratchy there. And I'm going to fill this in a bit too. I don't like that scratchy look. Now I'm trying not to fuss. Remember, this is going to be very, very loose. And I want this to go around the end to make it quite thick down there. Maybe one more leaf up through here. Oh, I like that. Really powerful leafing. Leafing? I don't know. Okay, good. Enough. Stop. That's enough leaves. I'll just tidy this one a bit. Okay, good. We've got our stems in now for the fun. We're going to make our blooms. I'm going to make them pretty blobby. I just want them to be kind of like a U shape at the bottom. A little bit. Now, I'm not fussing with them, guys. They're kind of tulips, but not. I like a little bit of shape in there is cool. And I'm going to do 3 of those. And one coming this way, maybe. And a bit skinnier. And then I'm going to drop in some green for the stem. Now it is going to go brown, but that's okay. Green and pink make a brown, but I do want them to have a place they're hanging onto the stems. That stem is so fat, guys. That's a super fat stem. These are super skinny ones. You know what? I don't care. That's actually a leaf I've attached that to. Okay, I see what I've done there. All right, I'm going to make that a stem that's part of, coming down here. There we go. And it's hitting the ground. Good, 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 good. So this leaf here really has to change direction. It has to go out here. There's a bit of ambiguity going on, so we need to know that's an actual leaf and it's not a really super uber thick stem, which we don't really want. Okay, now this is bleeding out and I love it. I love what's happening there. In fact, I'd like a few more bleeds to come in up here if I can. I'd like a few more bleeds to happen, so I'm going to add a little bit more water, see if I can get some bleeds going. I love that. That's beautiful. Okay. All right. Already we've got the makings of a painting. Now, I do want to bring in some of these spiky purple flowers. I don't know what they are, but they appeal to me, and so I'm going to put them in. And I want it to be open like this so we've got room to see the center. So let's just do it. Let's just go in. Don't fuss, just let it happen. Maybe go over a second time if you want. Kind of get the shape happening. And that's it. Leave it, leave it, leave it. Don't go any further. All right, I'm going to make another one of these up here, a smaller one. I can leave a space for the yellow in the center. It's kind of kicking over that way, guys. This is so easy. This is so easy to do. The looser the better. Okay, and I'm going to go in threes again. I'm going to do a third one, and this one I want him open again. I want him quite large up here, sort of like I did this one here. And keep it loose, keep it free, and go over a couple of times. That way the petals look as though they might be overlapping each other. You know, you don't want just one or two petals here and there. You just want enough that it's kind of got some depth to it. Okay, now for the centers. Oh, this is exciting, this bit. I want the centers to bleed into the petals. So let's see what we can do. Nice. Just tap it in. It's quite watery, so it will walk into the purple. Nice. Oh, love it, love it, love it. Okay. Now this wicking that's happening over here, I'm actually going to mop this up because none of the other flowers are wicking, and it's the only one that's got this wicking happening. Obviously it has more water than the others. That's okay. This is Arches paper, so we can play with it a little bit to remove some bits we don't need. Okay, and I'm going to give that another go over, and this little bit here, there's a little bit of wicking here. You know, I'm just going to mop into these so they all look the same. What you do to one, I want to do to all of them. Okay, and we'll bring back the pink with less water this time. Okay, it's dry-ish, so we can do something here. Okay, let's get some vibrancy back into this color. We're just going to do a couple of big swoops. Nothing fancy, guys, just a couple of big swoops. Technical term for that, swooping. Okay, do it all three. And that's actually bringing a little bit more depth of color in. It's a bit brighter now. This one's a bit kind of wonky. I want him to have a bit more of a scoopy base on him. And I want some more green in there, so I'm going to actually add some green so it can walk into those bases. Get some bleeds happening. Oh, nice. The deeper the better. Yeah, guys, the deeper the better. Now, the other flower that I want to bring in is my lavender, which is coming in here. So I need to mix up some more purple. Look how much this yellow has walked into the purple. It's gone from the centers all the way out. And you know what? This has turned these into yellow flowers with gray shadows. And it couldn't be better. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think I'm actually going to give them some purple centers when they've dried out a bit. So, wow. Love, 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 love. Okay. So we need some more of our little lavender, guys. So I'm going to bring in some purples. We're just about out of purple, so I need to bring in some more. So that our purple is Quin Rose and Ultramarine Blue. Love these colors, really nice. You can see how they are going to work so beautifully together. This green is a little bit yellow for me. I think I need a little bit more dark green, but I'll bring some darker green in towards the end. We'll sort them out. Let's test it out on here. That's really vibrant. Oh, I like it a lot. So we're going for this little guy here, guys. So it's just dots. It's dots along a cone, and I want some right up in the top. Just looking at my composition, I want some coming in this direction in the top right hand corner. I'm just going to roll my sleeve up. I'm getting warm down here. Now remember, if you want dots, you're going to hold your brush right near the end of the ferrule, right where the bristles are, and this will give you more control, and you're almost going to keep your brush almost perpendicular. And we want this to curve around this way. So this is the curve I'm going to take, and it's going to come in about there. So I'm going to start at the top and work down. For me, that's just the easier way to do it. And just dots, guys. That's it. You can see how small you can make these. And as you get to the bottom, you're going to spread them out. And then one or two at the top going off. And I want some sort of blur into the middle. So I'm going to put some bigger dots into the center, just pressing a little bit harder. I hope you can see that with the camera angle, what my hand is doing. And oops, and there we have a piece of lavender going that way. It's not quite as curved as I would have liked. I think I might try and curve that top around a little bit. There we go. All right, and I'm going to bring a couple of those in. We've got 3 of everything else. I think I just want 2 lavenders, but you know, I could change my mind there. We'll see what happens. I'm thinking this needs to come up through the center, and I'd like it to curve. Actually, I'd like it to be straight. I'd like to have a flower that's pretty straight with a curved top on it. It's going to have a top that curves around this way, but the flower itself is going to be pretty straight. And then adding into the center, just a little bit more pressure, but still keeping nice and low. Okay. Now this is coming along really nicely. I want to try and get some centers in the yellows, but it's still bleeding out a lot. And I know those 2 colors walk into each other really easily. I like this composition. I think it's good. I'm just going to stand up so that I can get a bit of distance. And I actually feel I want some of this purple right down near the bottom, right down here, about here. And it's going to be more upright without any curve on top. And it's just going to be more of a bud. So it's not going to be as big. Oh, I like that color. It is nice. So we start fairly upright here. And it's just a bud. It's not huge, it's just a little bit. See, just like that. Tap, tap, tap. Easy. And it's sort of got a cone shape at the bottom, so it's got this rounded part at the bottom of it, so it doesn't finish off flat. There you go. All right. Okay, I am going to bring in a smaller brush because I want to put some darker stems in the bottom. I want to get some really deep colors in there. So I'm actually going to bring my smallest, which is a number 2. And look at that point, guys. It's got a nice point on it there. This will give me some nice fine stems. You can see how this stem has got a lot of movement in it here. I want to be able to have stems that join up, not just flicks, but something that actually has some branching on it. So we'll have a look at this. And again, before I go to my page, I'm going to test it out there, and I can see there's not enough pigment, so I want it darker than that. I want a darker value. I want it nice and dark like the purples. So I'm going to mix up some more greens and a bit more blue, make it deeper. See what we've got this time. So you can see I have my play piece on cheap paper, and then I have the actual piece that I'm working on. This is the best way to do it, guys. Look, I get a chance to do everything on my play piece first. Crappy paper, it's full of cellulose, whatever it does on here, it's going to do so much better on this beautiful Arches paper. So let's try and get some nice thin but deep greens. I want to fix this little guy here. He's kind of looking like he's got a big fat stem going down that way, and that's not really what I want. So a bit of I want to go over that green shape if I can, make it darker, and I want that to be really connected. That's a lot nicer now. I'm adding a little bit more in there. I love how that's bleeding in. I do like that. Okay, now this one here, he needs to come down. I'm not sure where he's going. He's coming down here. He's curling to this side as well. So let that bleed in and bring down our stem. Nope, that's going to bleed in, I can tell. I'll just let that have a little bit of tissue on the top of that. Don't need the green in there. What's going on here? I'm really liking it. I am liking this bleeding that's happening. I love this bleed that's going into the bases here. Oh, look at that. In fact, I'm going to drop more. I like it so much I'm dropping more. Okay. Lovely and deep and thicker. I like that. Thicker at the bottom. And this one I want to attach, because it's straight, I'm going to attach a different kind of leaf too. I'm going to come up and have a leaf coming this way. Nice. And go out. And have a leaf coming down. It's nice and thick. Straight up through there. That's kind of cool. I like it. All right, so these guys need some stems. Again, I'm going to hold these really close to get really fine stems. And I'm going to do some little tiny leaf buds. There's a really sharp point on them. I like a sharp point. And these don't have stems, but I'm going to draw them in now. I'm going to connect them up. Just really, really fine. I'm just kissing the paper with the end of the brush. I don't want too many stems at the bottom, because what will happen is you'll have a painting of stems. I don't want that. I want to be able to see what's going on in the background here. Now I'm still waiting on this to dry to get my middles in. I'm going to do some purple middles, or the centers of the flowers. And I want this to be pretty dark. Kind of going to complement the lavender that I've got going there. That's too watery. Okay. Take some water out of my brush. And dot. I know it's going to walk into the yellow even though it's just damp. I'm going to do this one sort of longer shape because that flower is not completely open. This one here, green gold. Look how this is bled up into these tulip shapes. That is just lovely. I just love it. I'm going to help this one a little bit because there's a hard edge I can see forming there. If you can see any hard edges, you know, you can always soften them back. I really feel like I want a strip of purple up through these lavenders. So I'm going to come in and give them a strip going up, just so that it looks like it's the stem continues up through the flowers. This one in particular is kind of, he's missing a few bits. There we go. Not all the way, just so that it gives it some form. And he probably needs a couple more petals on there. And the same here, not all the way, just up the center, so that there's a line traveling up. There we go. That's made all the difference. Okay. How's my colour scheme going, guys? You know, I'm not seeing too much of this Quin Gold on its own because we do have the Quin Gold mixed in with our purple that we created. So I'd like to bring some of this in just to give a little bit more definition, and I'm going to do it in little buds. I'm going to put some pure yellow buds dotted throughout. And I have quite a lot of Quin Gold left in my palette. So I'm bringing in my big brush again, my size 10. I'm going to change my water. Now I want some pure vibrant yellows in here. I want this colour here that you can see, but only in tiny buds. And it's just a suggestion. It's not a bud with a flower on top of it, with a stem. We've already got enough stems in, we don't need more. It's just going to be some quite deeply pigmented curves. One there, one in the middle. I'm just going to dot these around where I think they'll work. Different heights, where there might be a gap that needs filling in. So this is just highly pigmented, and they're just long oval shapes, just to give the illusion of buds, that's all. And I want a couple peeking up through the top, and I want to keep them really tiny. They're just buds. I want one up here. This corner's a bit bare, so they're like a filler. And I'm going to draw in some fine lines with some watercolor pencils, because I don't want to add any more thick stems. And it's kind of bare in the middle here. I think I'll do some leaves there, some of these darker leaves. I'll do another leaf here somewhere, or maybe off here, coming over this way. So I recommend you stand up, walk around, move away from what you're doing. When you're sitting up really close to it, you can't see the wood for the trees. So you need to get up and walk away and see what's going to come of it. Now this is going to play nicely with some gold, which I'm going to put in with a stylus. I have a series of stylus, so I'm going to use some Lumiere gold paint and my styluses to finish this off when it's dry. So I want to bring in some of my Prismacolor pencils, really only one. I really only want a green for the stems, and I want something that's going to match our lovely green. Getting a nice close match here. I'll test them out again on my scratch piece, so that we make sure we get the right color here. No, too dark. Not yellowy enough. Still not yellowy enough. We want more of a yellowy olivey green, so maybe this color here. Too dark, but I like that color tone. So if I can get this a bit lighter. No. Try for real olive. There we go. There's our match. Okay, so it's darker, which is what I want. And this is Marine Green PC 988. But if you had some watercolor pencils that were this color, they don't need to be Prismacolor pencils. They could be pencils from the supermarket. It doesn't really matter. It's just the color that we're looking for. I do want to put a leaf in here before I start with these stems. I want one of these other sharp leaves here. I call them a sharp leaf. I don't know. Is that a technical term? A sharp leaf. It's a sharply pointed leaf at the end. Bit too much water on my brush. Okay. And I want it to come out from here somewhere. I don't know. It might come off this stem here because these are quite thick here. We give this one a matching one. And I want it to come into about here and curve down. Just to get the movement somewhere else so that they're not all pointing upwards. And I'm not happy with that at all. It's the wrong amount of water on my brush. I've got way too much water in this brush. I'll use my smaller brush, I think. Yeah, I'm going to use my smaller brush. That's what's happening. So we're coming back to the size 2. Better. Okay. We want it to come off here and curve down. There we go. That's what we want. Now, you may have noticed that I haven't used my heat tool on this. This has all been allowed to dry naturally. And I think if you have the time to let your work dry naturally, see, you get these lovely little edges around here that sort of give them a nice definition. If you hit it with the heat tool while it's still very wet, that is going to make things a little bit more difficult for you. Okay, so the coloured pencil, this is going to bring it all together, and there is no worry of anything being too thick or not matching up where you get these skipped lines. This is just going to make it really simple for you. And I've still got my Lumiere paint and my stylus dots to come in at the end. I have 8 different size styluses. So I have 4 on that end and I have 4 on that end. So we can go from very tiny to, I don't want to go really large. I want it to be quite subtle. But I have bright gold, which is 552 in the Lumiere gold. And that will be the icing on the cake. Still a little wet. I don't want to touch it while it's wet. I'm really looking forward to the reveal on this when I remove the tape, because I think we've got a really nice background happening that's not too busy, but it's not too boring either. I don't think there's anything boring in this at all. I think it's a really nice composition. Loving the colors. The colors I just love. And I'm going to be using this combination again. I like it. You can see there's our Quin Gold. There's our Quin Rose. There's our purples. And there's our green made with Quin Gold and Ultramarine. There's our 4 colours, limited colour palette. So I'm going to start drawing in the stems on the filler flowers, and I'm actually going to give them a little cup to sit on. There we go. Just drawing a little V underneath, really. That's all. I don't want anything with too much detail because we don't have detail in any of the others. But I am going to continue the stem all the way down so that we've got something that reads to connect the flowers, even if it's just these little filler buds. This is a lovely colour. Marine green. PC 988. Really matches the stems that we have. And I'm keeping it light again. I'm not doing full lines. I'm letting them be broken. But just that little connecting piece underneath, I'm darkening that up. I want that to be a little darker. This one here, might curve it back this way. It's coming all the way down. And if you're nervous about doing stems, this is a great way to circumvent that issue. And the guy at the top. And this has worked out well. He's quite long compared to the others because he's taller. He's ready to burst out. Kind of cool. And anywhere where your other stems need a little bit more help, you can use your coloured pencils. You can put a vein up in the middle of your leaf if you want to. I don't want really too much detail at all. And every flower doesn't need to have a stem. I think that's all the painting that I want to do. We have lost a little bit of our purple in that flower. I don't know why. It keeps walking back into the yellow. And I'm just going to add a little bit more to that. Perhaps the paper's a little bit wet there still. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my Lumiere paint. Put it in. I'm going to put it right in the middle of my flower. There's my flower. They are pretty colours, yes indeed. How about this old shaggy dog, guys? This is just a cheap and cheerful dollar shop brush, and I'm going to dab some gold into there so I don't risk getting acrylic paint on my watercolour brushes. There we go. So I'm going to move this away because I want to have a solid surface to test these dots on. So how about we test it this way? Quite small. Quite small. That's one of the biggest styluses. Okay, so if we can get dots that size on this one, I think that's the biggest. Oh no, I have another one bigger. This really big one. Oh yeah, they're really big. Okay, so there's two sizes that I like, and then I want some really tiny gold dots, like almost invisible, guys. I'll try even smaller, if I can get even smaller than that. They're a bit too small, they're not going to show up. But these are. So there's my three sizes that I like. I still have another one. So we have large, medium, and small. Okay. Right, so peel your tape off with some care. Arches paper usually doesn't tear, but I don't want to ruin it at this point by ripping the tape off. You could heat set it with your heat gun. which will help remove it. But I find when that happens, sometimes some of the glue stays on the surface and you've then got to rub it off. Okay, I'm going to do my biggest gold blobs first. And they're not blobs, they're beautiful circles using this method. These styluses were originally for a paper modeling kit. They came with a high density foam mat, and they were meant for creating paper flowers. Now I'm using the biggest one because I want to get all these dots in first and put some in the middle. And I'm even going to put one down the bottom. That's enough of these. So I'm going to shift to the medium size, which is about that. And I'm going to work in groups of 3 and then add to those. So groups of 3, oh, that didn't really come out at all. We didn't get any gold there. You do have to keep recharging. I do like the idea of 3 dots, and then I'm going to bring in some of the really tiny dots at random. That looks fabulous. That's the finish of that one, and now I'm just going to bring in this really tiny one and just going to put some small dots, adding and growing from those dots of 3. Oh, look at this. I put my hand right on those. I need to clean that up immediately. Yep, old lefty, she's done it again. I just grabbed some water and clean that up. That is acrylic paint. I don't want that sitting there. Just a tissue and some water. And in fact, I'm going to bring in the big guns on this because I'm quite nervous that that's going to stain. So I'm going to bring in my eraser kit and my magic eraser. Chuck's Magic Eraser. When all else fails, this is the one I turn to. You squeeze it out in some fresh water and you dab. You don't scrub at it, you just dab. That was a lucky save. Okay, that's gone. So these little guys, I slice mine down so I can get into really tight corners with them, and I keep them in my eraser box. So it's always handy for accidents like that. Right, keeping my hand off the wet paint. These little ones are so tiny that you can put on as many as you like, but I'm keeping them close to the grouping of gold that I have. And in fact, I think that was a good accident. I don't actually want any gold in the middle there. Okay, I'm going to go back on what I said, and I'm going to bring in some more of the bigger dots. This is the biggest size. Nice. Yes, it just needed something up the top. There's nothing on this side. I'm just going to put one down there. Maybe two. Okay, I'm going to bring it up so you can see a little bit closer. You can see the gold. It's not set yet, so I need to let that set for a while. That will take a while to dry because this is Arches paper and it stays damp while there's something sitting on top of it, so it'll take a little while to dry. So I'm loving that. I just am so thrilled with that color scheme that I figured out through my paints and these lovely brushes, these maple brushes, size 10 and size 2, and my Prismacolor pencils. So I hope that's given you some tips on how you can make some really pretty watercolor paintings. Start off with an idea of having a practice sheet. This practice sheet means you've got confidence before you go to your main piece. I think the composition in this works really well. There's a nice strong element through here, and I've backed it up with this little one here as well, and then we've got some much lighter shapes going off in the grasses. I do find sometimes you can end up with too many stems, but I'm happy with the number of stems I have. And because I used my Prismacolor pencil, that's kept everything light and loose and yet connected those little dots and turned them into really adorable little buds. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you give this a try, and I hope it's given you some insight into how you can have really successful paintings with a little bit of planning beforehand. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I recommend you do so you don't miss any more videos. Thanks for being with me today. I've had a fabulous time making this painting, and I hope you enjoyed it too. Bye for now.